Love, exciting and new.
Hello, Hannah Waddingham here. Have you seen the fabulous new Sun Princess? World-class entertainment, exceptional dining, and the greatest pizza ever.
It's a love.
Don't miss our Come Aboard sale with up to 40% off and free room upgrades. Visit princess.com or call your travel advisor to book. Princess Cruises. Terms and restrictions apply. Offer ends 2/28/25. Ships at Bermudan and British Registry.
This is an ad from BetterHelp Online Therapy. We always hear about the red flags to avoid in relationships, but it's just as important to focus on the green flags. If you're not quite sure what they look like, therapy can help you identify those qualities so you can embody the green flag energy and find it in others. BetterHelp offers therapy 100% online, and sign-up only takes a few minutes. Visit BetterHelp.com today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com.
Lowe's knows how to help you get the most out of your store run. That's why members save more with My Lowe's Rewards. Earn points towards My Lowe's money on eligible purchases. Get access to member-only deals and free member gifts. Plus, unlock free standard shipping when you reach Silver Key status. So what are you waiting for? Join for free today. Lowe's. We help. You save. Loyalty program subject to terms and conditions. Details at lowes.com/terms. Subject to change.
EVO. This series contains adult language and depictions of graphic violence. Listener discretion is advised. This series contains adult language and depictions of graphic violence. Listener discretion is advised.
Welcome back to The Devil Within, Satan's Shadow, episode 4 bonus. I'm joined again by the wonderfully intelligent Margot Carmichael, and she has to put up with me again for this episode, and we're lucky to have her. Margot, thank you again. Welcome back. How are you?
Thank you. I am good. I'm ready to talk about greed in this episode.
Nice.
How are you? Have you told your listeners and followers? Oh, they don't know anything. Is this top secret? Should I move on?
It is still top secret. I am not allowed.
Okay, well, then there's a little teaser. People have no idea what we're talking about. Now they're gonna be dying to know.
Yes, hopefully they'll be dying to know. Yeah, hopefully they'll be dying to know. And it's been
okay. Well, how are you then?
I am good. I'm good. I've been in freezing, frigid New York all week. Now I'm in New Jersey, in my mother's basement, which is great. It's snowing outside. It's beautiful and it's cold. And I miss LA. I miss my family and my animals. But this is it's cool. It's been a nice kind of working vacation.
What's McEnroe doing without you? Is she okay?
My wife is sending me pictures, so I know the bird is okay and getting her bath at night and is eating. But I don't know if out of the cage during the day, run of the house like I do it. I don't know.
Definitely not. And probably a little bit sad and depressed and like, where's my mom/dad, which is how I feel that he feels about you.
Where's the guy that feeds me, and pets me, and I give her kisses. Yeah. And I tell her she does a good job when she flies, not very well, but I go, whoa, you made it all the way across the living room,
Yeah, we saw that the last time we did this. She flew right to the computer. Kind of crooked, but good effort.
Crooked, but she's doing it, right?
Yeah.
She's doing it. And the outdoor cats are still
That was my next question.
Yes. Shorty and Fluffy, which is just refers to the length of their hair on their bodies. That's we haven't really given them names yet.
What's the raccoon called?
Kids are calling it Rocky Raccoon. That's too easy. You got to come up with something. But the raccoon isn't around as often, which is okay with me because I don't want the raccoon eating the cat's food. The raccoon is, I think, a much better forager and could eat wherever, whereas the cats are a little more discerning, right? And they like the cat food that we leave out. And the raccoon comes up and kind of nicely but bullies them out of the way. And so...
Well, half of LA burned down, so like maybe the raccoon isn't such a good forager right now. Maybe he's like tired of sifting through ash and rubble and wants some easy food,
Yeah, maybe. But so they're all doing well.
Good.
Kids are good.
Good.
The beach volleyball season started at my oldest's high school, so that's been very, very busy there. So things are good. Yeah,
You're busy. When do you sleep? You
very,
don't. You texted
very.
me the other night at like 1:30 in the morning. I was
Yeah,
like,
I
I was in
know.
bed at 9, by the
Yeah,
way.
yeah, no, it's weird. It's a lot, but it's okay. It's worth it. It's worth it.
Good.
Yeah, yeah. So
Excellent.
I can't believe we're on episode 4 already. This is
I
great.
know. And
This is
every time
great.
I finish one, I'm like, where's the next one? I want the
Yeah.
next one.
We're
And I
charting.
text you,
We're number 45 in true crime. Pretty good.
really?
Yeah, pretty
Oh,
good.
awesome.
Yeah, very
Awesome. Yeah. I
exciting.
mean, these episodes are great. I'm
Thank you.
really enjoying them.
Thank you. I'm just happy people are
Responding.
people are slowly coming back. You know,
Yeah.
the feed, because of all of the business mishigas, right? The feed was dormant for 18 months. 18
Right.
months. I couldn't release any content, right? And I shed hundreds of thousands of subscribers. But
Wow.
but they're starting to come back, which is
Thanks a
great. So
lot to
yeah,
you
so
know
thank you.
who.
Thank you. Yeah, I know. But so thank you, listeners, for hanging in there and for sharing the
Yeah.
show and for letting people know that we're back. So all right, let's get into it. Episode
All right,
4,
let's get into this.
greed.
Greed is the core theme of this episode.
It
And
is.
it really comes out in this episode in like a bunch of different ways. It's not just, I don't know, it's not just the basic greed. It's like you have corporate greed
Yes.
with all the financial crimes, and then like drugs, cartel, like that type of greed. And then that kind of relates into Ramirez's own version of greed, like stealing to fuel his addiction.
Yes.
So I wrote down questions for you this time. So,
well, what I loved about the Dante portion of it, the Divine Comedy
mhm,
portion of it, is that there's 2 branches of sinners in this circle,
yes,
right? The avaricious and the
yeah,
prodigal, the people who hoarded and the people who squandered, are
yes.
seen as equally sinful, which I
Pointless
like.
struggle between hoarders and spenders,
Yeah,
pushing their burdens back and forth forever.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
it was, I mean, I don't know, I guess I don't think of like I've thought of the other ones that we've covered. What are we calling them? Sins? Circles of hell.
The other circles, yeah,
Okay.
the other circles of hell.
I don't think of greed that much, which is interesting. I don't know. I'm not a very greedy person,
Well,
but
think of it like let's use an example, present day example of it. Regardless of where you stand politically, you could make the argument that someone like Elon Musk, okay, who's worth $400 billion, okay, where
disgusting.
where's the Elon Musk Institute for pediatric cancer, right?
Hmm.
Where are all of the grants to put poor kids to school or to solve hunger in Africa? You know what I mean?
Solve
So
hunger in America. I mean,
sure,
you know,
exactly. So and Dante's version of that was the Catholic Church, which he was entirely devoted to. Okay,
right,
but he made a point. Virgil made a point to Dante, and thusly Dante made the point to the reader that in this circle of hell were popes and clerics, and he was pointing out the greed of organized religion.
right.
That they stopped being devoted to God, and they became, their money was their new God, right?
I mean,
So
still like that's
100%.
today,
Yeah,
you know.
absolutely. Absolutely.
I also really liked that greed as a form of self-imposed damnation, which is like uh, it's people just I mean, it's exactly how I think of this country. It's people chasing more and wanting more, whether it was the Wall Street guys that you talked about or the like Ramirez, he's constantly chasing his next
Yeah.
high.
Yeah.
And it's just people who are like never satisfied. And by being never satisfied, you're damning yourself.
Yeah.
I mean, it's super
When I was in
interesting.
high school, there was a musician. He had like a year of fame, and he was
Hmm.
kind of like a folky but rock guy. Okay.
Hmm.
And he had a song that really, really resonated and landed with me. It was a song called Power Windows. and
Mhm.
he gave us this yin and yang kind of. He talked about one guy of a Charlie has a brand new Mercedes Benz, okay,
Right.
and he's got another one just like it, just like all his friends. So he has like two Mercedes, right? His wife is playing tennis and his kids are off at school, and he drives home to his empty house and sits by his empty swimming pool. But he's got power windows, he's got power brakes, he's got all the stuff that money buys you, right? Then he goes, then it says, but he's got no one to talk to, and tears are rolling down his face. Okay. Then it's
Ugh.
like this other guy, he drives a beat up like 69 Dart, right? And it's car's falling apart. He's got no power windows, no power, nothing, but he's got his girl by his side and his arms around her, and they've got no cares because they have and they love each other, and he's not alone,
Yep.
right? And
Yep.
so that is, a really 90s kind of folky kind of rock, real derivative version of greed. This guy is
Totally.
only driven by what can I get? Like, what can I amass so I can prove to myself that I've accomplished, right? And
Yeah, but that's I mean, it as you were talking about that song, and she'll never listen to this, so I feel like I can say it, but one of my best friends, she's not greedy, but she has a lot of money. She worked hard, she made a lot of money, she has a big house, lives in, like, $1,000,000 house, um, nice fancy cars, and has for we've been friends for 20 something years, and she started working, made a ton of money. She's miserable. Her
Mhm.
marriage is terrible. They don't like each other. They're not friends. She has a wonderful little son, but she's really lonely and unhappy in her home life. And it breaks my heart for her, but then, I'm stressed about money all the time,
Right.
constantly. It's one of my biggest stresses. But sometimes when I
Same.
talk to her, it unfortunately makes me feel really grateful. Like I don't know how I'm gonna pay my rent next month necessarily, but
Mhm.
I'm really happy in my relationship and my
Yeah.
friendships and even in what I'm doing. I may not be making enough, but I enjoy what I'm doing. I care about it. And I wake up every day not like feeling lonely or dreading the day.
Yeah.
So I'm poor in bank accounts, but I'm rich in other
Where it
things,
matters.
and I thought today, if I could live in $1,000,000 house and drive a Lexus and, like, take she's going to Italy in a month, and, like, if I could do that, but I was, like, in my old marriage, like, married to my ex where I was very unhappy and lonely, would I go back to that? Never.
No.
Never. I'd give up my car, I'd move into a box
Yeah.
if I could continue to be doing what I'm doing and have the people around me,
Yep.
because it doesn't bring I mean, I think that most people understand. Do you think that for anybody it does bring happiness? Like, do you
Yes.
think that there are people that it's just the money and that
Yes.
fulfills them?
I know people
Really?
like that. I know wonderfully rich people who are amazing people, super happy because of their money. Yeah,
Huh,
and they're generous, and they give stuff away,
right.
but they also work
That's
really
good.
hard and they play really hard, and their money does one great things for them, but it's not
Yeah.
their primary purpose. Isn't money? Money serves their passions. They're not happy with like, okay, I've got this house now.
Right.
No, then their house. Someone once told me. I think it was a Stoic. I forget who actually said it, but someone shared the quote with me that success is a full table. No, I'm sorry. Success is a crowded table. Okay,
Mhm.
meaning the dining table in your house is so crowded because so many people love you, and you have such a huge circle of friends that's the measure of success. Okay,
Mm.
regardless
I
of
like that.
money or anything like that, right? And so these people, I'm thinking of a few in particular. They also have that. Okay, they have
Oh,
a
so they have
ton of
all of
money
it.
and they have all of it. So they have all of it, and I'm sure that
Lucky them,
I'm right. And I don't think that that's as rare as we're
we
making
think.
it out to be right now. Right.
Oh,
Right.
really?
I really don't think it's that rare. I think I think it's more rare that someone is like your friend, that someone is super, super wealthy and then made
And
some
really
bad decisions.
miserable.
Right. And if you could trace those bad decisions to because I was too busy trying to make money, okay, then yeah, you blame that. Blame the greed right there because for a while money was what was so important and I let a lot of good opportunities go by. Yeah, I can see that. Definitely.
Hmm.
But the
Huh.
squandering, I've squandered as well personally. I've had money before, and
Oh, me too.
yeah,
Well, I've had money once and I squandered it.
squandered.
When I first started at Cavalry, I was working at Cavalry, but I kept doing my freelance
Yep.
education writing on the side. And for it was like 6 months, but for like 6 months, I was like, "Oh shit, I got money. Like I have a lot of
Yeah.
money right now. I'm making a lot of money." And I was like, "Oh, great. I'm just gonna buy whatever I want." I actually went to Florida, but I squandered
Yeah.
it, I guess. But eh,
See,
whatever.
there are
Money
levels. It
goes.
depends. For me, my squandering, it's relative to how much money I had. Like when I was 19 and we were going to Vegas and we were drinking and we were gambling and all that. And let's say
Fun.
all of my money in the world totaled like $600. Like total, that's all that I had to my name.
Uh-huh.
And I would lose it within 2 hours that we got to Vegas. Okay. It's not a lot of money in the grand scheme of things, but to me at 19, that was all the money that I had. Okay.
Dude, $600 is a lot of money to me right
And
now.
so I
Like
felt
it's
like
relative.
I just pissed it away. Just pissed it. And that happened more frequently than I care to remember. Where I would save a little
But
bit
you
of
had
money.
fun doing it.
Oh man,
So
did I
much
ever?
fun.
Did I ever? Did I ever? So, but anyway, I kind of I hijacked your question aspect of the episode. So I turn it over to you.
I don't remember what my question was. Oh, it was
We were
before we got to
starting.
Dante.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
I was where was I on my notes? Do you think that greed is human nature? Or do you think it's something that's been kind of like reinforced and glorified over time? Because it it is glorified in certain ways, for sure. I think.
Wow.
I got some good questions for you this
I
time.
think it's watching my kids grow up. I think it's human nature to want stuff, right? To
Well, yeah. Yeah.
like those cookies are good. I want the rest of them. Okay.
Mhm.
And so as a parent, we kind of got, we teach them to share and we teach them don't eat too much or save some for later or whatever. And so you can hopefully nip that kind of greed thing, kind of nip it in the bud. But then at the same time, my kids have grown up and solidly middle class, like never
Mhm.
really afraid of not getting food tomorrow or whatever. So
Sure.
they never had that instinct to hoard, right? And so I think that's a different question. So I think that depends
Mm.
on there's the man's character is the product of his premises, that kind of philosophy. But yes, it's from Ayn Rand, who's not the biggest thinker of her generation, but still there's some good stuff about her writings. But so to say that, where okay, one of our best friends' husband grew up in the former Soviet Union. Okay,
Uh-huh.
so grew up under communism, like standing in bread lines with his mom. Okay, and like
Wow.
right, and so and I've had hundreds of meals with him, and it does not matter what's on the plate in front of him. Every single the plate is
Yeah.
clean when he's done. Every meal, no matter what. And I asked his wife about it, and she goes, he grew up in a time where you might not eat again for a few days. So no matter what was in front of him, you had to eat. You had to. You were not allowed to waste anything. Okay. And then
Wow.
my brother-in-law's stepdad, he's in his like mid to late 90s, and he was a
Mhm.
Depression era kid. Okay. So
Wow.
he's worth the hundreds of millions of dollars. This man is fabulously wealthy. He was a banker, and then he owned a bank, and he sold a bank,
Really?
an art collector, and yeah. And but he he saves money and spends it like it's 1932.
Right.
Okay, right? Because
Well,
because that
one might say that's why he's
right
worth so much money
that's okay. Very
or
good point.
contributes to it.
But he never had, and you asked him about it, and he said it was just burned into his psyche that
Right.
there's not enough anywhere. There's not enough. So you have to
Hmm.
make what you have last. Don't spend unless you absolutely have to, like your life depends on it. That's the environment that he grew up in. And so even now, 80 years later, okay,
Right.
uh, gosh,
still
more
like
than that.
that.
We're almost 100 years removed from the, or 95 years removed from the start of the Depression. That's still his psyche, so that's part of his character. Does that mean he's greedy, or is he a hoarder, or is that just what he learned? And there's some aspects of our character that we never fully shed.
Yeah, I
And
mean, I wish I had more of that in my character. Don't
yeah,
spend unless you absolutely have
absolutely.
to.
Yeah. If I, see,
Jeez.
I still think that a new pair of Adidas is going to fix me. Okay. Like that's what I think. If I see something that catches my eye, I'm like,
You do
I
not.
need those sneakers. That is my weakness. I think
Really?
the right pair of sneakers is going to make everything okay. Yeah.
That's really funny. I did not know
I,
that. I mean, I
yeah.
know that you like
You should
I
see.
didn't know that though.
Yeah. You should see my
I don't think
sneaker
I feel that way
collection.
about anything.
Yeah. My sneaker collection is ridiculous.
Oh, you got to get together with Oliver. He has a ridiculous sneaker
I'm embarrassed
collection.
by it. I'm embarrassed by it. So many of them
Yeah.
I've never worn. I look at them in the box and it makes me happy. And I smell them and then I
Well,
put the box away. Yeah.
some might call that greedy. Like, why do you have all these sneakers
Yes.
if you're not
Why
going
am
to
I
wear
hoarding
them?
sneakers? I know. You know how many
Yeah.
people need shoes within 10
Right.
blocks of where I live? I know. I know. They make me happy.
Huh. I don't
Yeah.
think I have anything. I have to. I'm going to think about that. I don't think I have anything that
Yeah.
I don't collect anything. That's for
Right.
sure. No, I don't. I don't think so. I mean, look, things make me happy. I would like to go out and buy
Yeah.
stuff, but I don't know.
So the simple answer was a long way of saying, gosh, that's a good question. And I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either,
Okay.
actually. So, okay, another question.
Mhm.
So first of all, it was really interesting hearing about yuppies. Is that really what that stands for? Young urban professionals?
So you just missed knowing what a yuppie was, I guess. Okay.
I mean,
'Cause
like
you're not Gen
I've
X.
definitely
Yeah.
heard that plenty,
Yeah.
but I just thought it meant like kind of like a douche, like a
No,
douchey,
it's
like preppy.
young urban professionals.
Yeah,
Yep.
I did not know that. So that was interesting.
Yep.
But the yuppies, you talk about Rolexes, junk bonds, all this like
Yeah.
Gucci, this and that. And so like in the 80s, it seems like greed was kind of like normal, like it was normalized and it was
It defined the 80s culturally. Yeah.
did you say define the 80s? Oh, it defined the
It
80s. I was like,
it
can't
defined,
define the 80s. Yeah,
it was
it defined the 80s.
one of the
Yes.
defining cultural kind of phenomena of the 80s was this normalization of greed and acquiring wealth and ostentatious displays of wealth and all that. Yeah.
So, do you think that for Ramirez that this was like he almost maybe felt justified, like everyone's greedy, everyone's getting whatever they can. Like if everyone else is taking whatever they want, so can I. Why can't I?
I think it's the opposite side of the same coin. I think it's
Huh.
it's not that one is obviously one is better because the yuppies weren't murdering. Okay, yeah,
Right.
of course, but
Right.
but there were aspects of that yuppie Wall Street greed that was incredibly destructive, that ruined people's
Sure.
lives, and people went bankrupt and people went to jail and all of that. Not as singularly destructive as what Ramirez was doing, obviously, but
Right.
but I think the foundational elements of what can I get was kind of the same. Like I
Yeah, I
need to
guess.
feed this. I need this. This is out
Right.
there. Everybody's doing it. Um, and his was just a real dirty, felonious, murderous, insane version of it. Yeah.
Okay. I think like the yuppies, when you're talking about yuppies, it just makes me think like there are still yuppies today. It's just it's influencers. It's social media people. Like
Yeah.
instead of yuppies in suits and driving their fancy cars, we still see people driving fancy cars, but it's just people on Instagram showing off their
Yeah.
whatever, their
When
everything.
when I was in my 20s, they didn't get as popular as the yuppies, but the big thing was they called dinks, double income, no kids,
No kids.
right? People with money
That's gonna
that
be
had
me.
disposable income, uh, that could go and buy shit. They could go and buy
Yep.
whatever they wanted that people
Yep.
with kids and mortgages couldn't do. Yeah.
Right.
So
Yeah. I did know that term. My ex-husband was a accountant. So
so
and
the dinks in
we
the
had a double
90s.
income and no kids.
Yep. Yep.
Um
Yep.
So what else? I like hearing about the 80s. I was born in the 80s. So I don't remember the 80s very much, but I do like hearing about it. And so how do you think, obviously this time period had a lot of impact on Ramirez.
Yeah.
I don't know if it impacted his. I have a question about that later, but how do you think that this like contradiction in the 80s, because you talk about like just say no and preaching, like the administration is preaching morality, but at the same time greed is like everywhere and all these yuppies and all these people with all this wealth, like it was a pretty big kind of a big contradiction. So do you think that had any impact on crime at the time?
I do. I do think it. I think because there was a big thing that I didn't cover in this episode that I wanted to, but I couldn't condense it to anything. The episode would have been 3 times as long, which was the Iran-Contra affair, okay, where the
Okay.
government was involved at the highest level, selling arms to Iran, and then taking that money and funneling it to the Contras in South America to try and install a new government. Okay, so
Oh,
that was, I mean, criminality at the government at a federal level. Okay, um,
wow.
yeah, and so that all got exposed, and there were the Iran Contra hearings, and it was an embarrassment, a big black eye
When
for
was
the
it? This was in the 80s?
Reagan administration. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I
And
don't remember that.
right, and so that was going on. All of the drugs coming into the country led
Mm,
to massive spikes in
crime.
arrests. I don't know
Oh,
about in crime, but a massive spike in arrests, and a lot of it you can look back and say was racially driven because
right.
you had to have 10 times the amount of powder cocaine to get the same jail sentence as 1/10 of crack cocaine. Okay, and so crack cocaine was generally in the inner cities
That's so
where
stupid.
where majority of the population were African Americans. Okay, so they were getting 10 times the prison time.
Is that true?
That's
You had
true.
to have you had to have
Yeah.
10
Okay.
times.
Say you have 1 ounce of crack and it gets you a year in jail. You needed to have
Mhm.
10 ounces of powder cocaine to get the same jail sentence.
That's so stupid. I mean, crack and cocaine are essentially the same thing.
They are the same thing. They
Right.
are
So
they're
you're just
the same
cooking it
thing
or whatever, right?
plus like baking soda and you cook it.
Right,
That's
right,
it.
right.
That's it.
That's ridiculous. Okay, so that's
But one
because
is happening in the
got
urban
it.
centers and the other are rich white kids in the suburbs and Wall
Right,
Street execs.
right.
Okay. Right. So yeah,
Hmm.
it was really kind of disgusting and kind of overtly racist, like what was going on then. So
Well,
that's when
yeah, I didn't know that.
jails got overcrowded because of all of these arrests because of crack cocaine. And listen, crack cocaine was a terrible epidemic, and hardly anybody was offered drug counseling or rehab or
Right.
anything. It
Hey,
was
what'd you say? Less than 5%
less
or
than five
something?
percent of
Yeah.
cases were offered. Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, just say no. That was a giant flop,
It was a
clearly.
giant flop, but in the 80s, it
And
was
offensive. I never thought of that.
everywhere. It was
I
everywhere.
I
All
mean,
you
I know
have to
because
do is
that
say
led
no.
into I remember just say no like a little bit, and then that led into dare
Yep. Dare
and
to resist,
McGruff,
dare to
the
keep drugs
drug
off, gruff
dog
the
and whatever,
crime
because
dog.
that was like
Yep.
my time in school. I remember that. Um,
But the
but
audacity for the
yes,
"Just Say No" campaign as a one-size-fits-all catchphrase just
I,
shows a profound lack of understanding of the nature of addiction.
When it gets cold in LA, and yes, it gets cold in LA, not back east cold, but cold enough, I'm always ready for it. My warm house slippers, my favorite sweatpants, and a cashmere sweater from Quince. Now, before you start thinking I'm some bougie guy chasing fashion, remember, I'm a minimum wage kid from Jersey who lived more than 40 years thinking that cashmere was the uniform of the wealthy. But then I found Quince. And being totally honest here, yes, this is an ad, but I was a Quince customer long before they were gracious enough to sponsor The Devil Within. Gone, long gone are the days of spending $300 or $400 on a great cashmere sweater. Quince's iconic Mongolian cashmere sweaters start at $50. I have 3 of them, along with a full zip cashmere cardigan. And I don't keep it a secret. I tell anyone who asks me to, at the very least, check out their website because they offer so much more than just cashmere sweaters. And you'll find out that all their stuff is priced 50 to 80% less than similar brands. It's affordable, accessible luxury that won't even come close to breaking the bank. My full zip cashmere cardigan is my winter daily go-to. And so far, I've worn a Quince cashmere crewneck to every holiday party I've attended this season. Cashmere is no longer reserved for the rich folks. Luxuriate in coziness without the luxury price tag. Go to quince.com/devilwithin for 365-day returns plus free shipping on your order. That's QUINCE.com/devilwithin to get free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/devilwithin.
Are you still quoting 30-year-old movies? Have you said cool beans in the past 90 days? Do you think Discover isn't widely accepted? If this sounds like you, you're stuck in the past. Discover is accepted at 99% of places that take credit cards nationwide. And every time you make a purchase with your card, you automatically earn cash back. Welcome to the now. It pays to Discover. Learn more at discover.com/credit card, based on the February 2024 Nielsen report.
Hey, Fidelity. How can I remember to invest every month?
With the Fidelity app, you can choose a schedule and set up recurring investments in stocks and ETFs.
Oh, that sounds easier than I thought.
You got this.
Yeah, I do. Now, where did I put my keys?
You will find them where you left them.
Investing involves risk, including risk of loss. Fidelity Brokerage Services, LLC, member NYSE, SIPC.
This episode is brought to you by Coffee Mate. After watching this season of the HBO's original series, The White Lotus, this is the tropical getaway I needed. One more pina colada, please.
Hey, you're not on mute.
Oh, I thought I was in paradise. Turns out it was my Coffee Mate. Coffee Mate Pina Colada and Thai iced coffee flavored creamers. Inspired by the newest season of HBO's original series, The White Lotus. For the love of coffee. Try now.
Well, and I never thought of it. Everybody's knows just say no. Yeah. I've never taken the time to think about that. And when you were talking about that, like that, anybody can you just say no. It's no big deal. And if you can't just say no, then like you're a terrible person.
You're fucked up.
You failed. Yeah.
You have flawed character or serious moral failings. Yeah.
It's unbelievable that was so like shoved down everyone's throat at the time, and it's so offensive.
Yeah, if you look it up, historians have rated, because historians will rank anything. They'll put anything in order. Okay. Right. And I think FDR was the first. Yeah, his administration was the first first lady to have a public initiative. Okay. Eleanor Roosevelt was the most active, the first lady who actually wasn't afraid to show that she's educated, and she had a very powerful intellect and had a lot of influence, irrespective of her husband. Right, she could do her own shit, and her husband was like, "Go, girl, do it." You know, she's a New Yorker; she doesn't give a fuck about anything. And so, she was the first lady to have a public initiative that was separate from the president's agenda. Okay, right. So, I think there have been 10 or 11 presidents since FDR, and so they rank the first lady, and she blazed the trail. Every first lady since has had initiative. Okay, right. Just Say No is ranked second to last in the effectiveness of these. And the worst was Melania Trump's Be Best. That's
was that an initiative that she had called Be Best?
Be Best. Be Best.
Wow, I must have never watched the news during that time.
The irony that no one really, I guess, saw it was like, don't bully, don't call people names, don't do it. And look in your own house. You know, for name calling? Are you
You're
kidding
living
me?
with the biggest bully, dude.
Right, the biggest name caller ever. That's all he does is call people.
He's a criminal and a rapist.
But he is very proudly a name caller. And that's
Yeah,
something that's
so true.
basic to
That
his
is
nature.
very ironic.
I'm a name caller too. Sometimes, like, whatever. My wife smacks me when I say something stupid in front of the kids. I'm trying to be better at it. I'm trying to be best. Okay. I'm
That's
serious.
so dumb. Be
I know.
best. I
I
hate
know. I'm
it.
serious.
So stupid.
Like Michelle Obama's was like Play 60, which was great. Like 60 minutes a week for kids to be playing outdoors or
Oh,
something like
okay.
that, which
I
was
thought
good. So
hers was
there,
like gardening or growing your own vegetables or something, but all kind of the same, like healthy eating. Wasn't that like her thing?
that was one of the aspects of I think of Play 60
What
was
would
a
you say
healthy
was
diet.
Play 60?
Play 60, which is kids should be playing outside for 60 minutes a
True.
week at least.
I
Pretty
agree.
true. I think it should be a lot more, but I think
It should be a lot more.
she was
60
aiming low,
minutes.
so making it an accomplishable goal
Right,
kind of thing,
right.
I guess. Yeah, I could have the numbers wrong, but I think it was Play 60. Yeah.
Be best. How stupid.
Yeah, it didn't really
God.
land. You didn't even hear about it, but everyone knows. Just say no. Yeah, no.
Well, yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
of course.
Yeah.
Okay, there's something else that I really was like, I listened to this part and I feel like it wasn't the most important part in this episode, but I really loved when you talked about the fence.
Oh
Like,
yeah,
I didn't
I
know.
learned that. I
I mean, like,
learned that.
yeah, I never knew any of that. I mean, I know what
I
a fence is. I've heard that obviously,
Sure.
but
I literally thought that it meant because you're exchanging goods like in secret over a fence, like at a fence line. Like, here, you take this and I'll take the money. No shit, I thought that. Like, I didn't know that it was an abbreviated defense. They
that's
got the
funny.
D right that
I mean, I didn't think anything. I certainly didn't think it was called that because you're exchanging goods over a fence.
I didn't. I'm not ashamed to say that I learned that I had a
No, you
ridiculous
shouldn't be.
opinion.
That's
Okay,
funny.
and but the fact that it's an abbreviation of defense or defense,
Yeah, that's
someone who
cool.
provides that layer of protection. I learned that. I loved it. Yeah, thought it was great.
Defense. Yeah, I really liked that. I listened to it a couple times, and the fact that like these people, these fences were essentially okay. So here's my question about this:
Yeah.
is do you think that the fences were as guilty as the criminals? Because essentially, they're kind of protecting the criminals from getting caught in a
Oh, they're
way.
complicit. I mean, being a fence,
They're complicit.
is completely illegal, and you get massive. I mean, possession of stolen goods is a felony, and that's
So do you
normally
think that they're as responsible? Obviously not Ramirez. He's murdering people, but let's pretend he's not, and he's just stealing things, not hurting anybody, and bringing it to the fence. Is that fence as kind of complicit? Yes, but as
well.
guilty, as
Here's
responsible?
there. I guess probably should have added this. Then there's always this unspoken understanding. I don't ask you where you got it. You don't tell me. I just
Right.
know that you didn't acquire this legally because they don't want
Right.
to be complicit in murders so they always have plausible deniability. Like, I didn't know this guy was cutting throats to get this stuff. He told me it fell off a truck.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
That's
So
that's
yeah.
the that's the
Right.
Sopranos
That's
version. It
that,
fell
that
off a
that's the
truck.
that's the colloquialism, right? So
Yes.
there was always that plausible deniability in the transaction. Um, you'd be a really terrible offense. You're like, all right, tell me exactly where you got this. Okay.
Yeah, obviously, yeah, that's not
Okay.
happening.
So,
Okay.
so then the fence goes to the pawn shop and says, okay, I got a garage sale, or this was my cousin's, he gave it to me, or
Right.
I had an uncle who died and I got everything in his apartment. So then the fence could say anything when they were eventually offloading it.
And so the fence, because like as I admitted in one of the one of the episodes we've done, that like I stole things from my parents' house and went
Yeah.
to the pawn shop and pawned it. I didn't have a fence,
Right.
but if I'm assuming Ramirez isn't wanting to walk into a pawn shop by himself and sell these
Because
things,
you have to
'cause
show
it
ID.
connects him to it. Oh, we have to show ID.
Yeah.
That's right.
You have to show ID.
So
So there was a
okay,
time in America, hold on, before banking became, the lifeblood of the economy, and
right,
people were getting mortgages and personal loans, pawn shops were an incredibly legitimate form of commerce, right?
sure,
Like, it wasn't like what we're like now, like, oh, I had to go pawn my guitar because I'm a piece of shit. No, it was like,
right.
oh, okay, I need a short-term loan. Okay,
That's true.
I'm going to get a loan against this item. right? And then I'm going to come and get it back.
Get it
Like
back.
that's how
Right.
so many people got short-term loans or would, get near market value for something without being taken advantage of. So pawn
Hmm.
shops were and are a very legitimate, form of
Yeah.
commerce in the
But
country.
somebody who goes to a pawn shop and pawns something, you're right. Automatically, it's like, oh, they're a piece of shit.
Right.
Oh,
There
they're
it's gotten to it's kind
trashy,
of
sleazy, whatever.
right. The reputation has been sullied for whatever reason over the years
Yeah.
because of the fencing and because of that kind of stuff. Because um like there are it's a regulated like industry. They can't buy firearms that are older than they have to be antiques.
Hmm.
If they buy something that turns out to be stolen, they're on the hook for it. They have to give the item back and they're out the money. Right? So
Wow, that
yeah.
sucks.
All that's true. Right. All that's true. So
Huh.
so they have to like they'll always ask, where did you get this?
Right.
It's
Jeez.
it's
I'd
but
imagine that.
you don't have to prove where you got it. But
Yeah.
you've got to tell them, you have to give them a good enough, a believable enough story so they'll
Story.
buy it from you. Right. Yeah.
Okay, so now let's say there are no fences to
Mhm.
buy or to give Ramirez money for the stolen goods. Does he become who he became? Like if he can't get money, he
Wow.
can't do drugs,
Right.
does he still become the Night Stalker?
Gosh. That's when you become a stick-up kid, right? And you just rob people for the cash
Mm.
that they have on them. So it prevented him from doing that, prevented him from doing like liquor store robberies
Right.
or stick-ups or being a purse snatcher or something like that, because he had a fence kind of ecosystem where he could get money on the regular. Yeah.
But if he was sticking up convenience stores, maybe he's not murdering.
Yep. Because he'd probably get caught. You're right.
He's
So
just
the
like
so the fact that he was in a city that had that criminal element that was robust enough to
right.
allow, I think that maybe that's why he moved to LA.
Hmm.
Yeah. Because maybe El Paso doesn't have as much opportunity for that kind of
That's
stuff.
right. El Paso. I mean, El Paso's pretty criminal, remember? It's like you could spit into Mexico from El Paso.
Jeez, will you ease up on El Paso? It's a beautiful city. It's a treasure of the South. Okay.
It is. I know more about
Gosh,
Juarez than I do about El Paso,
you
and
just put a
because they
little
are
bit of
like,
butter on that El Paso statement. Just easy with El Paso.
okay,
Okay.
oh my gosh, great. El Paso people are gonna start coming for me now.
Yeah, they're my
Goodness.
friends.
Okay. Can
Gosh.
we talk about sorry for all the shuffling with all my notes here. I'm I'm obviously dying to get to the murder
Yeah.
in this episode. I mean, I love the Dante. I love all the like the 80. I love all the information. I've really learned a lot in 4 episodes of things that I never had knew about.
Great.
And but I love cuz I mean, I'm a creep obviously, but I love hearing
Mhm,
about the murder.
mhm.
And this one was in a different way, but equally as shocking as well, there wasn't one. I mean,
Right.
there wasn't a
A
murder.
non-murder.
So the lack of murder was equally as shocking as the
Yeah.
brutality in the last episode with the sisters and stuff. Like, I mean, I have so many questions I wish I could ask him, as I'm sure most people do.
I
But
know.
I mean, he it's like he was a different person. He was like polite to her.
And
May
why do
oh,
you
can I get
think?
you a robe? Like where should I put the
You
key?
must be cold. Whoa, get the kid out of the room. He shouldn't see this.
Like was she the hottest woman ever? Did she remind him of someone? Did she like play along? This is going to sound terrible. I don't even know if I could say
No,
this,
no,
but like
no.
like
Yeah, to save her
did,
life? Sure.
like while he was raping her, was she like not screaming and crying because
Mhm.
she thought maybe that would
Pretending,
make
right,
him,
right,
you know?
pretending that it was okay,
Right.
right? Yeah. I don't know. Obviously my opinion in it was, I think this is one of his first, by evidence only by the sisters from the previous night didn't have a lot of valuables in the house. So he
Right.
probably didn't get enough money to get his cocaine. So there's a really high probability that he was coming down and was probably
Ah,
nearly sober or clear headed. And so you're right. That would make him a different guy. That could temper his aggressive nature, temper his violent nature, where he's not like everything isn't turned up to 100.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
But his criminal hypersexuality was still there. He still needed to scratch that itch with the rape, but that didn't build him up into a murderous frenzy like it normally would.
Right.
That's my opinion of it. I'm not sure if
Okay.
anyone else shares that opinion. But having some knowledge of, the nature of addiction and how especially how like cocaine, turns people into, it like we talked about last week, it intensifies your personality. So if he
Yeah.
didn't have that intensification happening, maybe that could account for his nearly almost unique behavior when it comes to his attacks.
Well, so I thought, could it also be like, could keeping people like off balance, like be like another form of control? Like he's this crazed person. He broke in, he's rapes her. Like people maybe assume he's going to do one thing, and then it's almost like, I don't know, he's like controlling the narrative. Or do you think that like you said, you think it was just due to that, like he wasn't high on cocaine, perhaps?
Yeah, I think I would. My initial reaction to that question is that you're giving him a little too much credit. I don't think he was that deep of a thinker when it came to
Yeah. Do
this.
you think maybe he didn't even know what he was going to do next? Like he just was
No, I
flying
think
by
he
the
was
seat of his pants.
pure instinct, pure
Okay.
rage-filled,
Right.
drug-addicted instinct drove him like an animal. Okay, and he didn't know where he was. Thought he was in Glendale, he was in Burbank, and he. You're going to learn a lot about him in the next episode, in episode 5, that might open or shine a little bit of a light on what maybe why he behaved this way.
Okay.
But almost like there was this like a glimmer of his former self, right? Because they say you stop your emotional growth the moment you start abusing a substance, right? So for Ramirez, that would
Really?
be or not
It was like
totally stop,
10 for him.
but it like really it stunts your between 10 and
Right.
14. So there's an argument that could be made by some mental health professionals and addiction specialists that could say that by and large he had the emotional kind of understanding of the
Of
world
a
of a adolescent.
teenage boy. Yeah.
Right, of an adolescent. And how do teenage boys act? A lot of times they're on
Horny.
instinct, they're crazy, they're horny, they're whatever. But then still every now and then they'll see a puppy and they'll go, "Wait, hold on, don't hurt the puppy.
Yeah.
This is a
Right.
cool little dog. Maybe the dog could be my friend." Right? Or they'll see a younger kid getting bullied and maybe they'll stand up for him, right? So we're little bits of the pre-monster Ramirez kind of coming through here, where he comes into the room and he's like, "Oh gosh, you're probably cold. Okay, hold on here." No, hold on.
So
Or
weird.
or maybe a lesson that he learned from his mom, like, okay, you be a considerate house guest. Well, where should I leave the key so you can get out of the handcuffs later? But still, it's a weird thing. But
Such
I
a
want to make
weird, like,
sure I don't want you to be locked up all day, okay?
right.
Because you've got to eat, right? And you've got to you got to feed your kid, and you've got to do stuff. So, because what a risk she took, saying leave it on the mantle because my teenage daughter is going to be home in a few hours,
Yeah,
to a guy
I
who
never
just
even
raped her.
thought about that, but you have teenage daughters. So to me, like that would have never, like, what is he's going to come back when the teenage daughter's there? Yeah, I guess that wouldn't be shocking.
What if he just said, "Oh, really? I'm going to wait a
I'm
couple
going to
hours.
hang out. Yeah,
Yeah, I'm
you're
just going to
right.
hang out
You're right.
and see what this teenage girl's all about." Yeah, but he
That's
didn't.
true.
He left the key. He's like, "Okay."
Because he got what he ultimately came for, which was
He got some
things to
jewelry,
sell.
right? He
And
got
he already
off.
had sex.
Yeah, and things to sell. But it was weird. It felt like Janice, right? The two-faced, because at one time he was like, "Here's a robe," and he's like, "I don't know why I'm letting you live. I'm a murderer already."
Right.
Like that was trying to bubble up to the surface. But
Yep.
then something would be like, "Oh, okay. So that's a
Yeah, he
good
was like,
idea.
he had
Handcuff yourself to your
hesitated.
kid over the bedpost. That's a great idea." She goes, "Why don't I take care of that for you?" Here we go. There we
Smart,
are.
I mean, smart woman. Whatever she did something right because
She
I mean, I don't know if
survived,
she's
and
alive
her kids
today, but she was
survived.
alive.
Kids
And
survived. She survived. Yeah.
um, I mean, I obviously want to know what happened next. Like, did the daughter come home and let them free?
Yeah.
And did she go to
Oh
the
yeah.
cops?
Everything. Everything.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
And that's
Okay.
where it gets even a little weirder. So I know I'm throwing a lot at listeners, so I didn't want to get into this part of it, but um, this attack, there's a large, well, it's a minority, but a very vocal minority who say that they just pinned this on Ramirez and that it was actually somebody else. Okay, which would account for a lot of this stuff. Um, because at trial, there was hardly any attention given to this. It was said, and then he did this, and they presented no evidence other than the description that she gave was a Latino male. She didn't say he had bad teeth. She
Oh,
described a completely different haircut with like a swooping, almost he had almost like a Bieber, right? Right, right. It got like kind of swept over his one of his
like a
eyes, kind
hipster.
of. Yeah, like a hipster cut. Um,
But didn't she see him? Like, once he was
she saw
caught,
him.
didn't she see him and identify him and be like, "That was him"?
And that's the other thing that I'm going to get to in a later episode.
Okay.
If you watch the video of the lineup, like a usual suspects lineup,
Right.
there's 6 guys that all look exactly the fucking same. They're all
See, that's
they're
so
all like they're all like 6 foot tall, skinny, dark-haired Latino guys.
that
Okay.
pisses me off because think about it. If you're
Sure.
being raped, you're not like, "Let me, memorize the shape of his face and what his teeth," like,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm speaking sadly from experience. You're not like, you're not taking that all in.
Right.
You're just
Right.
trying to survive it in whatever way your like mind or again, I can't speak for anyone else except for myself, but like your mind goes
Yeah.
blank. So to then put all these people who look identical, it's
Yep.
so fucked. I mean, I get it, but it just
So she picks him out of the lineup, but if
mm.
you watch it,
Oh,
there's a camera behind her and like at the very back of the room. So you see the room where the witness is, you see the two-way mirror that she's looking through, and then through
right.
that you see all the guys in the lineup. So it's I would imagine her and her attorney, and then public defender is in there also, and then there's a couple of cops, and the cops are running are running the lineup. Okay, and they say,
Mhm.
okay, number 1, step forward. Okay, and then they say like number 5, step forward. They don't do it in order. Okay,
Oh.
and then Ramirez was number 2, and then the cop goes, okay, number 2, step forward, and he does this. It's the only one that he did a signal for, and at the end, the woman goes, it was number 2.
Oh my god.
Right.
And
So
that
it's
was
like
never
that was
like
brought it's brought up by the chorus of people who, and they're not saying that Ramirez was innocent. They're saying he was
clearly
innocent of this
of
one.
that. Yeah.
And so there's someone else still out there that you never gave a shit about going to find because you just hung it on Ramirez because he was doing all this terrible shit. Right.
What do you
So
think?
I don't know. I honestly don't know. I
See, with her though, okay, so if he raped her and then left,
yeah.
maybe I could see that. Maybe it was somebody else. But they talked. They chit-chatted, you
They
said,
chit
for like
chatted, yeah,
a
like old
while.
friends, yeah, like old friends.
Right.
So
Like
Ramirez had this thing where he didn't talk much about the people that survived, okay,
oh,
because they had the story that they were he couldn't add much to it. He
right,
After his arrest and incarceration, he gave details of the people who he murdered, okay, like kind of
right,
very proudly, okay,
right.
which is where we get all of this stuff. Like all of the story of this story, none of it is from Ramirez. It's all from Carol Kyle's point of view. It's all from her
Oh,
statements. All, I was just reading right off of the police report and witness statements. Yeah.
wow.
So this is yeah, it's all her stuff. None of it is from Ramirez. Yeah.
God, she must feel is she still alive today, do you know?
I don't know.
I
But
feel like she
I
must
drove by her house. Yeah.
Oh, really?
But
Oh, that's right. You
it
can
was
go by
40
all
years
these
ago. Yeah. Oh,
places.
I know. It's dangerously near where I live. It's freaky. Yeah, it's really freaky.
Oh, your
But
house isn't blue though, so
no, and I'm far from a freeway
freeway.
entrance.
Yeah,
I'm
that's
like
true.
blocks and blocks and blocks. Yeah.
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 So So I have one question about this, and then I just have a final question for you. I know it's
Okay.
late where you are.
No problem.
So with her, he had moments, like you said, where he like hesitated or almost seemed to like doubt himself, where he was like trying to be angry, but then wasn't and was being nice. And like, so do you think that seeing those moments where he almost seemed to like reel his anger in, now what, that maybe that was just the lack of drugs, but do you think that he could have ever stopped, or he was just always going to escalate and keep going? Or do you
Okay.
think he had the ability, like he had it in him, he just didn't do it?
I fully believe in the power uh, of therapy and uh, the right medication for mental disease. All right, I
Sure.
fully believe in all that. I think so, and I'm not going to change that opinion despite what a fucking monster this guy was. Okay, like
Mhm.
uh, I think that if given the right uh, you know detox regimen and and sobriety and support system and psychoanalysis and drug medication kind of regime that's consistent and that is kind of tweaked as you go along to till you find the right combination of stuff. Yes, I do
Think he
think
could
that.
have had a different
And
path.
but it's like it would have to be like kind of top to bottom, right? Like ego death would have had to, that kind of
Right.
philosophical kind of tool. Um, get rid of his whole thing about being a serial killer rock star a persona that he adopted in prison, and he had a bunch of hybristophiliacs, right, of women who are attracted to felons.
Oh,
That
I didn't know that that's
that
what that was
yeah,
meant.
hybristophilia that would come to his trial like
So
every day and like a
weird.
cheer, like like he was Elvis, right?
I
And
mean, that still exists
of
today.
course, yeah, he
It's
married one of
so
them. Ramirez got married in prison to one of his fans.
He did?
Yes, yes, and
That's
I'm giving away stuff from future episodes, but yes, yes. So, I mean, that's a really good question, and I do think that he could
Mm,
have because, and what I was going to get to is that I think what honestly, if Ramirez was the perpetrator in fact of the Carol Kyle incident,
yeah.
which I'm 70-30 that it was him. Okay, um, he showed a few flashes of humanity
Yeah.
that had thus far been completely absent from when our story began. Yeah.
Hmm.
So, yeah.
And okay, well, that kind of answers, I think, or plays into this question, which is that, what we know thus far, do you think that his addiction was the catalyst for his crimes, or that he was going to be on this path regardless of his drug use?
No, I think the catalyst for his crimes was his undiagnosed psychosis, and I
Right.
think his drug addiction took it to a place that not a lot of
Next
people
level.
get to. Right, a really,
Mm,
really obviously destructive and dangerous place. Um, and then I look, if you're asking me to armchair shrink him, I will. Um, so he was a psychopath, a made
right.
psychopath. Okay, fell into drug addiction, which made all of it worse. And then I think he had enough self knowledge. Because you listen to him talk, he's an intelligent guy. He was a well spoken guy. He had enough self knowledge to know that he was doing terrible, terrible things. So as an excuse, he
Huh.
adopted and got into Satanism and say, "I'm doing this because the devil's telling me to just kind of deflect responsibility." So
Right. And you
that's
say like those are the most dangerous
they're so
criminals
dangerous.
because there's no,
If someone
the,
thinks that a supernatural being is commanding them to
right.
do stuff, fuck it. Like just stay out of
Forget
the
it.
way. Yeah, just stay out of the way.
Do we learn about his childhood in the next episode?
Yep.
Because I'm really interested. I've like stopped myself from looking anything up. I haven't watched anything. I mean, like
Yeah.
I know obviously about Ramirez, but I haven't watched any of the recent documentaries or
Yeah.
anything that's out there because I want to be like, I want to learn
The
it
next,
from
yeah, and the
this.
next circle of hell is anger. So,
Oh,
yeah. and I dedicated almost entirely to the first 20-ish years of his life before he's in LA.
So if you could put in like one or two sentences how, I mean, obviously I listened, I know how you intertwined greed into this episode, but like, in what way do you think Ramirez was greedy? Just from his stealing to support his drug addiction?
No, I think the leading kind of guilty party of greed for Ramirez was the level of his addiction. Just purely not how he fed it, not how he made it happen, facilitated his addiction. The addiction itself, that beast inside him was very, very greedy. That aspect of his being needed constant feeding.
Do you think that's with all addicts? That's
Yeah.
like, yeah.
It's a lot of things. It's a disease of the body. It's a whatever obsession of the mind, like all of that. And it's derivative and it's kind of easy and it fit well into the episode to call it greed, right? But you can easily make the argument that it fits the definition to a T.
Right.
He had a very, very greedy. I mean, I'm coming up with wonderful, in my opinion, delicious adjectives for his great. Like I think I called it a blistering cocaine addiction at one point.
Yes, yes, you
because
did.
it just seems hot and fetid
Yeah.
and diseased and just give me more.
He's constantly having to eat it. Yeah.
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 Oh gosh. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
That's
that's I think that was the greediest aspect of his personality, and then everything else from him robbing, yes, greedy. The fences, yes, they're greedy. Yes, the culture was shot through with greed at the time.
His hypersexuality, that's greedy.
Hypersexuality,
Totally.
his libido was very, very greedy.
Yeah.
Dirty and and broken and Yeah.
You described the rape like, I don't remember exactly what you said, but like repeatedly and like, it just.
I left all of the details out.
Oh, really? Because yes, the description of the rape was brief, but even in its briefness, it was.
No, I went. I made this an advertiser-friendly version of it because, honestly, because you don't really, you don't need to know.
Yeah.
You really don't need to know. If you don't know he's a monster already, then you're not listening, and that's cool. I get it, but that portion of the episode wasn't about the rape. It was about his out-of-character behavior while he was in the house.
Right. And I mean, like, how much do you need to describe a rape? It's a rape. That tells you everything you need to know. It's awful. It's terrible. But yes, and I think that you did a good job of that because it wasn't the focus. The focus was on that they chatted, and I'm like picturing it as I'm listening.
Right, like what was going to be more shocking to the listener? That he raped someone again, or that he brought her a fucking blanket? Right?
Yeah, that was a good choice. That was a good. You're right. That is way more shocking. So that was a very good decision.
Cool. I appreciate it.
Great episode. Loved it.
Thank you very much. Episode 5 next week.
Thank you very much.
Check us out on YouTube. Thank you for facilitating that, Margot. And if you like the episode, please share it with friends. Go over to Apple Podcasts and rate and review. It helps. And, consider supporting these great companies that support the show because I couldn't keep doing it without them. So thank you again for listening. Margot, thank you for participating in this. It adds such a great dimension to the show.
Yeah, I love it.
Until next time, stay safe out there, people.
Bye, guys.
The Devil Within is an EVO production, recorded live at Bel Air Studios in Los Angeles, California. Written and produced by Branden Morgan, executive produced by Danny Abelson. For The Devil Within, I'm your host, Branden Morgan.